Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, honorable members. Let it be put on the record that when the government of St. Lucia is trying to put in place legislation to avoid or to help the police, to empower the police to stop the escalation of crime, the opposition voted against it. Let the record be clear that the opposition, led by the member for the opposition led by the member for Miku South, supported by the member for Choiseul, came to this honorable house and voted against the police. On the record. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, over the last weeks, there has been an escalation of violence in the south of the island. Mr. Speaker, that violence erupted when a well-known, what is called in the language, a citizen or well-known Don was assassinated, and clearly there were reprisals, from other members. You don't mean to give an answer. I tell you already, that's where you go. That's where you're going to stay. Opposition. That's not your business. That's not your business. That's not your business. Mind your business. The convention you had and nobody was there. Mind your business. The $2,500 you pay for each delegate. You have to pay $2,500 to get elected.
You give Kim a contract of $1 million a month. Where were you to answer? Where were you to answer? Member of Castle Senate President. I warn you.
But you
sell people's land for $25 and you give it away for $1.08. Member for Castro is central. Everyone will have an opportunity to debate and say what they have to say.
What he's trying to do, member
for National Security.
He's trying to create an environment for
Minister for National Security.
He's trying to get the environment to work out.
This bill is a very important bill, as are all bills brought before this House. We're going to have an orderly debate in here. Please proceed, Minister for National Security.
We're not putting horses before hospitals. Mr. Speaker, on March 9th, 2023, gun violence erupted in Beaufort. 2 males and a female resident of Bruceville were killed, and a 9-year-old hospitalized for gunshot wounds. This happened in less than an hour of each other at the Fisheries Complex and on Clark Street. Then again, on 10th March 2023, 4 persons were killed. Mr. Speaker, I want to once more express my condolences to the families of the people who lost their life. Mr. Speaker, the negative impact of this incident was felt not only in the community of Beaufort, but throughout St. Lucia. The Ministry of Education closed schools and businesses closed earlier than usual, as individuals living within the area and in St. Lucia generally became anxious and fearful of their lives. This has caused the economic reality of disrupted businesses within the area and the ability for people to earn their living and for businesses to ply their trade. Mr. Speaker, the government recognizes the harm that can be caused to communities in St. Lucia, not only in Beaufort, as a result of increasing crime. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the crime of supplying and distributing illegal guns and firearms can cause harm to the users and to the country generally. In addition, the supply of illegal ammunition and illegal firearms threatens the lives of and causes harm to people who are sometimes innocent. The formation of gangs with the whole purpose of committing crimes and causing harm to individuals in society lends to the increased occurrences of crime in St. Lucia. The Governor of St. Lucia also acknowledges that the Royal St. Lucia Police Force has been working very hard to combat the rising crime situation in St. Lucia, and I want to compliment them for their efforts. Even after, Mr. Speaker, even after the wanton destruction of the custody suites, the police have had to be transporting people arrested from pillar to post, from station to station, in that because of the custody suites was destroyed, Mr. Speaker, there is absolutely no place to keep them. And the government of St. Lucia, and I can proclaim and I can say that next month we will begin reconstruction of an area that we shall call the custody suites for the benefit of the country and to give the police some place to hold arrested people, albeit for a few hours. After the incident, Mr. Speaker, police presence has been intensified. In so doing, the force is using its powers under the Police Act, Cap 14.01, and the Criminal Code, Cap 3.01, which are not adequate to deal with these high-risk situations. In an effort, Mr. Speaker, to deal with the prevailing crime situation, the government proposes to enact the Suppression of Escalated Crime Police Powers Bill. The bill will therefore provide police officers with additional power for the suppression of escalated crime, as stated in the long title of the bill. And there have been discussions with the police, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank them again for their cooperation. Escalated crime is defined as an offense that constitutes a serious offense and disrupts the peace, the protection of life and property of individuals. The serious offenses contemplated in the definition are offenses against the Anti-Gang Act, Cap 318, the Drugs Prevention of Misuse Act, Cap 3.02, the Firearms Act, Cap 14.12, and offenses against a person under Chapter 2 of the Criminal Code, Cap 3.01. The bill indicates that the bill is applicable to a police officer in the execution of his duties for the suppression of escalated crime in an escalated crime area. An escalated crime area is designated under the bill by the Minister of National Security. The application of the bill does not affect the police powers under Police Act Cap 14.01 or the Criminal Code Cap 3.01. The bill, Mr. Speaker, the objectives of the government in passing it are stated as being the establishment of a framework to protect the public order, public safety, and economic stability of St. Lucia. suppressing or otherwise dealing effectively with escalated crime within an area in St. Lucia, and strengthening the capacity of the police force to deal with the escalated crime in St. Lucia. Before the force can exercise any powers under the bill, the Minister of National Security must pass an order, which is essentially a statutory instrument to designate a particular area an escalated crime area. The order will provide a description of the boundaries of the area to be designated an escalated crime area, specify that in Part 2 of the bill or some provision of Part 2 of the bill applies to the escalated crime area and the duration of the order. Several powers are provided to a police officer under the bill. Consequently, a police officer has the powers of questioning, to block a road, set up a cordon, require the removal of a vehicle or other article, and access land or building in the bill. A police officer above the rank of inspector has the powers to close premises, give directions for control of firearms, ammunition, and explosives, and control places of public resort and entertainment. In exercising these powers, the bill protects the police officer from the institution of an action, suit, or prosecution or other proceedings once the police officer acts in good faith that is in compliance with the bill. A number of offenses are created under the bill in furtherance of suppressing escalated crime. It is an offense to destroy, damage, remove, tamper with, interfere with, or in any other way impair the utility or efficiency of property belonging to the government or government agency. It is also an offense to trespass on such property. A person is prohibited from damaging, obstructing, or doing anything that will prevent or interfere with the use of a road or path. In addition, a person cannot assault a police officer whilst the police officer is executing his duties. A person may be detained by a police officer in accordance with the bill for committing an escalated crime or an offense under the bill. In the bill, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of National Security will make arrangements for an outside security force to assist the force if implementing the bill, and will make regulations for giving effect to the bill. Mr. Speaker, as you most likely must have heard, the regional security system has been activated, and as we speak, they are on the ground in St. Lucia. If an offense is committed under the bill, the penalty as provided in the bill is on summary conviction to a fine of $50,000 or of imprisonment for 15 years, or to both, or on conviction or indictment for 25 years imprisonment. Mr. Speaker, this bill is very serious, Mr. Speaker. Extremely serious, because it gives members of the police force power to bring an end to the situation as it exists in St. Lucia today. But, Mr. Speaker, we know that the bill alone will not solve all the problems. The bill alone cannot solve all the problems. But the bill will give some support to a situation that exists now at this present time. Together with that, Mr. Speaker, the government is doing other things. This morning, we will put in effect a program that will give small businesses of the country $10 million of support, 70% in grant and 30% in loan, so as to help small businesses recover after COVID. The bill is in addition to the launching of the Youth Economy Agency, where young people again will be given grants and loans to help them start their businesses or to help them expand those who have already started a business. The bill comes together with the community tourism program, where again we will bring tourism to the people so that the philosophical benefits, tourism can have a philosophical underpinning, Mr. Speaker, that the benefits of tourism must accrue to as many people as possible, and that is through the community tourism program. The bill comes at a time when only on Tuesday we borrowed money to improve conditions at Victoria Hospital, at the OKE Hospital, and to turn the Victoria Hospital into an urban clinic to assist in healthcare in this country. So the bill is not in itself a cure to all the problems in this country, but the bill is to assist the police now to bring a situation under control. That is the purpose of the bill. And if you note, Mr. Speaker, you will see that there may be a time period in which the Suppression of Escalated Crime Police Powers Act, Police Powers Bill will be in effect. There's going to be a time period. It's not going to be in perpetuity. There's going to be a time period, Mr. Speaker. Because we have to bring an end to this situation, Mr. Speaker. There's going to be a time period. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, the main purpose of the bill is to provide police officers with additional powers for the suppression of escalated crime. In the preliminary part of the bill, Mr. Speaker, Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title, and in Clause 2 of the bill, various terms are defined for the purposes of the bill. The clause therefore contains definitions for the phases escalated crime area, and serious offense. Clause 3 of the bill, application of this act, provides that the bill applies to a police officer in the execution of his or her functions for the suppression of crime in an escalated crime area designated under the bill. Additionally, Clause 4 of the bill, purpose, provides that the purposes of the bill to establish a framework to protect the public order, public safety, and economic stability of St. Lucia, suppress or otherwise deal effectively with escalated crime within an area in St. Lucia, and strengthen the capacity of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to deal with escalated crime in St. Lucia. But Mr. Speaker, we are also giving tangible resources to the police. Only this week, Mr. Speaker, the police were provided with 150 bulletproof vests to help them to execute their duties. The police, Mr. Speaker, have been provided with, since July 2021, not less than 20 vehicles, including 3 vehicles that they are going to be receiving between today and next week to help them in their duties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 60 additional police officers will be recruited in the police force. Starting the process of recruitment has begun, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this budget, the training vote for the police has come from 0 to 300,000. In this budget, Mr. Speaker, there will be an allocation for the repair of police stations, for the provision of furniture and equipment for the police, Mr. Speaker. So no longer will the police have to depend on dinners to get their equipment. The government will make a direct intervention to support the police, Mr. Speaker, and they will not be at the whims and fancies of people to have dinners to help them in that situation. The government will invest directly, Mr. Speaker, in the police force. It comes at a time, Mr. Speaker, when the government has begun construction of the Grossley police station. And if you go to Grossley now, Mr. Speaker, you will see that the building now is being demolished and work will start on a brand new, and the police like to call it the Northern Divisional Headquarters. That will happen, Mr. Speaker. Work has started there, Mr. Speaker. It comes at a time, Mr. Speaker, when work on the Viewfort police station, which has been delayed, will start with I've given the instruction to work on the Vieux-Fort police station to start almost immediately, and I want to assure the member for Vieux-Fort South that work on the station is going to commence next week. Mr. Speaker, I want to make a point about that on the Vieux-Fort police station. Mr. Speaker, when the problems there were pointed out, Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that it would have taken about $300,000 to repair it because of the fact that it was neglected, Mr. Speaker. Not because it was reported, because it was neglected. It will now cost millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker, to repair something that could have been done for less than $300,000. That is the commitment you had that was there to the police, service in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill, as I said, is an addition. This bill is to suppress a situation that exists now, but that's not what all we are doing to deal with crime in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. It comes at a time when next week the Minister of Education, or next month Minister of Education, will be again distributing thousands of devices to the children in St. Lucia, 4,000 devices to the children in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, to help them deal with the fact that the last government stopped the laptop program, Mr. Speaker. And the story on the e-books has not been told, Mr. Speaker. So it's a combination of policies, Mr. Speaker, that social policies and educational policies and even health policies that the government is undertaken to help the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the member for Choiseul regrets that he followed his leader. Part 1 of the bill, designated as an escalated crime area, provides for the designation of an escalated crime area by an order made by the Minister responsible for national security in Clause 5 of the bill, and for the contents of an order for designation of an escalated crime in Clause 6 of the bill. Part 2 of the bill, police powers of suppression of escalated crime, consists of clauses 7 to 4. The power to stop a person is provided to a police officer under Clause 7 of the bill. The power to block a road and set up a cordon is provided under Clause 8 of the bill, and the power to require removal of a vehicle or other article is provided under Clause 9 of the bill. Other powers provided to police officer in the bill are the power to access land or buildings in Clause 10 of the bill, the power to close premises in Clause 11 of the bill, the power to give directions for control of firearms, ammunition, and explosives in Clause 12 of the bill, and the power to control places of public resort and entertainment in Clause 14 of the bill. A police officer is protected from an action or persecution or other proceedings under Clause 14 of the bill. Part 3 of the bill, of offenses for the suppression of escalated crime, provides in Clause 15 of the bill for offenses relating to public property, in Clause 16 of the bill for offenses of trespass of public property, in Clause 17 for offenses with respect to roads, and in Clause 18 for an offense with respect to assault. The detention of a person who commits an offense under the bill is provided for in Clause 19 of the bill. Part 4 of the bill, miscellaneous, provides in Clause 20 for the Minister responsible for national security to make arrangements for an outside security force, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has the power to make regulations under Clause 22 of the bill. Mr. Speaker, as I said, this bill is very serious, but it displays, Mr. Speaker, that the courage of this government to put in effect, albeit for the time being, legislation that to curb the outbursts of violence in this country. And as I said, it's going to be for a period of time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the bill gives the police more powers. The police within or outside an escalated crime area shall stop if required to stop by a police officer. A person shall stop if required to stop by a police officer. And if a person contravenes, he commits an offense. The police have the power to block roads and set up a cordon. It also gives the police power to require removal of vehicle or other articles, Mr. Speaker. Gives the police power to access land or building in Clause 10. Gives the police power to close premises if, and that has to be done by a police officer above the rank of inspector, if he believes that these premises within an escalated crime area, and that's important to note, it is within an escalated crime area, are being used or have been used or are intended to be used for a purpose or in any manner that will prejudice the interests of public safety or public order. The police officer may, by notice in writing, require the premises to be closed and remain closed until further notice or for a period not in excess of 48 hours. Mr. Speaker, the bill gives the police power to give directions for control of firearms, ammunition, and explosives. It's a police officer above the rank of inspector may, by giving a direction, provide for prohibiting absolutely or conditionally the possession of a firearm or any ammunition or explosive within the escalated crime area, Mr. Speaker. A direction under that subsection may require the removal of the firearm, ammunition, or explosive to a place as may be specified in the directions. Mr. Speaker, it also gives the police officers protection, Mr. Speaker, once they are in compliance with what the bill allows them to do. It gives them protection, Mr. Speaker, under Section 14. Once the police follow the dictates of the bill, they are being protected under Section 14 of the bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the bill also gives the police officer powers of detention. A police officer may detain a person if he or she reasonably suspects that the person is has committed, or is about to commit, or has been involved in the preparation, instigation, or facilitation of an escalated crime or an offense against the Act, Mr. Speaker. And the person shall be detained under subsection 1, shall be detained in such place, whether within or outside of the escalated crime area, the person can be detained, Mr. Speaker, for a particular period. So, Mr. Speaker, this temporary legislation is to stop an immediate problem. It shows that the government has confidence in the operational capacity of the police. It shows that the government believes that the police will follow the law, but will bring the situation under control. And the government will give them the support and the resources as required to bring the situation under control, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the members of the RSS who immediately, when St. Lucia asked for support, they immediately made available troops from the countries, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank them, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge members of this honorable House to support the suppression of escalated crime police powers bill, so that we can see if we can bring an end to this situation that may cause the country generally, Mr. Speaker, undue harm now and particularly in the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister for National Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will not be long, although I had a lot to say. But in the interest of time, it's 11 o'clock. I will not be long, Mr. Speaker. I promise you. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition, and I was in the opposition business myself, Mr. Speaker, and I recall being here 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting across there and listening to them, listening to what he had to say. Most of it used to be insults, most of it used to be ridicule, but we stayed and we listened, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition is a master at the art. And I think when you have a mixed degree, that's what happens to you. He comes here, Mr. Speaker, and listen to how he starts, very quiet. I tell him, guys, talk up, speak up. Because he's pious, he's concerned. He wants to know that things, and he feels sorry, and he has sympathy, and etc. And he says, yes, so he starts with this sympathetic view. I'm sorry with his product of Canada accent, sorry. And then he goes and he said, but on the undermining, the misinformation, the lies, the calumny, the insults are open, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you something. The leader of the opposition, and I can say for the St. Lucia Labour Party, during this crisis, the Labour Party has not made one statement about this crisis. Not one statement, Mr. Speaker. Because the Labour Party understood the seriousness of the situation, and the Labour Party understands, and I said in my opening statement, you cannot take Vieux-Fort in isolation. It happened in Vieux-Fort, it can happen somewhere else. I said so in my opening statement. I've been saying so from the beginning. I said so to the press, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, let me tell you something about the leader. And I'm sorry I'll do that today, because I don't like to mention people's names in the parliament. But I must do it today for the public to see, Mr. Speaker, the deception of the United Workers' Party and its leader, Mr. Speaker. The deception. And if you have permission, I want to make it a documented house. Because, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition, together with his United PAC, which is an agent of the United Workers' Party, which he writes in, he's a subscriber to United PAC, they peddle lies, misinformation, calumny, libel, defamation, all kind of things, Mr. Speaker. All kind of nastiness, thank you, in pretending, and then he comes and says, oh, let's work together. Why don't you call me to work with me? Come, let's speak. Why don't you stay here and let's work together on the bill? Mr. Speaker, let me give an example. And I apologize for doing that, but I must do it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am a politician that doesn't have many godchildren. I don't have many. I know you must have about 70, right? Because I take the business of godfathering very seriously. Both fathering and godfathering. That's why I only have one child. But Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition, the United Workers' Party and United PAC, the same. They insist in casting aspersions on a young police officer who got the greater part of his promotion on the United Workers' Party. It started by the former Minister of National Security in the cabinet saying that the police officer is on my payroll. Yes, Mr. Speaker, from that day, the United Workers' Party, United PAC, and the leader of the opposition has targeted that police officer who is qualified, who is a professional, who has, I think, 2 master's degrees, and who got the majority of his promotion on the United Workers' Party. So they come to a rumor saying he's my godson. But Mr. Speaker, I always challenge them. I always challenge them that when they take me on, I can answer. They can take me on anything. I've challenged them. Take me on anything you want. Take me on. I've said so in opposition, and I remember the member for Cassius North telling me, boy, you or something else. You can say that. I've challenged them, Mr. Speaker. So I allow them to say whatever they want. But they can never come with any element of truth about what they say about me. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. But you come and talk about helping in crime. So they say that the gentleman is my godson. It's very easy to find out anything about you in St. Lucia. What land you have, what property you have, what happened in your divorce case, anything. Very easy. Very easy. So when they play Sanctimonious, when they play in Sanctimonious, we can go back in history. We can go back in, because our democracy makes all these things very boy to find out. So I did a registry search and I found out who was the gentleman's godfather. So today, when the leader of the opposition comes, it's piousness. And you should come and talk to us about crime and this and that. In the United Pack, here's what he writes. Mr. Speaker, and I apologize again for calling the gentleman's name in the parliament. But I have to protect him and me, the integrity of the government that I lead, and my integrity as the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. United Pack. The correlation between criminality and nepotism. Look at the words. In the police force cannot be ignored. United Pack. Your party's organ. It raises the question of how serious the Prime Minister is about curbing crime when such blatant favoritism exists with law enforcement. Likewise, it is hard to believe that Philip J. Pierre is committed to reducing crime when he promotes his godson. And they come and say about let's work together. Yeah. Who is facing numerous over other deserving officers. This kind of corruption at the top is breeding ground for criminal behavior and serves only to spin us round the mud, Mr. Speaker. United Pack. That is the mouthpiece of the United Workers' Party and the mouthpiece of the leader of the opposition. And Mr. Speaker, they take a picture. Mr. Speaker, these guys, anytime you see us, you want to run a country, and my friend always tells me, these guys have to construct lies to win the next election. Because no way the people of St. Lucia are going back to that. No way, they're not going back. Look what they did. They post a picture of me at a meeting with the cabinet secretary, the attorney general, the commissioner of police, and the police officer, and they point at him, Philip J. Pierre's godson. You see the calumny and the lies. You see what the leader of the opposition is peddling in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker? That is only one, Mr. Speaker. That's only one. And they have some more that the United Pack and the member for Vivo South, they have more. But look at it, Mr. Speaker. And I want you to make it a record of the House. Baptism and birth certificate. Extract from the register of baptisms, marriages, and burials of the parish of Castries in the year 1983. Denomination Roman Catholic, St. Lucia. Year 1983, November 242, live 58. Bear with me on remembers. That's important because it's my turn, all of your turn. It was your turn. You have to bear with me. Listen, don't get too sleepy. Baptism in the parish of Castries. Date of birth May 10th, 1981. Date of baptism 5th January 1983. Sex of child, male. Child's name, excuse me, I said Ronald, R-O-N-A-L-D. Mother's name, Annette Philip, A-N-N-E-T-T-E, P-H-I-L-L-I-P. And my name is one L, eh? Mother's full name, occupation and domicile, home duties of Pavé. father, Henry Jean-Baptiste, sponsors, if any, Nenan Pawe, godson. Henry Jean-Baptiste, mechanic of Pavé. Lydia Centros, barmaid of Pavé. That's in Nenen. My name is Philip Joseph Pierre. You see it right there? Status officer, Reverend Charles Grit, FMI. Priest. Signature of parents, Annette Philip. Signatures of sponsors unless declared unable to sign, Henry Jean-Baptiste and Lydia Centros. Registrar of Civil Status, dated February 18, 2023. That is the baptismal certificate of the police officer, the high-ranking police officer, that they've caused members of the police force to spread the same rumor, saying he's my godson. But that is what, Mr. Speaker, can I make it a document house?
Member, I know the rules governing documents of the House, but I must tell you that I have to look into the utility of this particular document. I don't see any particular reason why a document of that nature should be made a document of the House to further spread what you consider to be a falsehood. So I would want to suggest to give me some time. You may leave it at the clock, and I'll make a ruling on it at a different date.
I'll be so guided, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, you want it clock? No, I'll give back now. Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, that is what the party of the leader of the opposition peddles in, and they talk about crime, wanting to deal with crime and wanting to work together with crime, and let's get together. Sanctimonious, Mr. Speaker, sanctimonious. Further, he says that this government is the one that began inquiries into the police force. But Mr. Speaker, I know the leader of the opposition doesn't like Sir John Compton. I know what he did to his daughter. I know that. I know how he treated his family. So I don't see why he must begin to attack him even in his death. Sir John Compton on television dismissed 3 officers in the police force. Long pants, short pants. You remember that? He dismissed it. Listen to what he said. He said that police officers hide their criminality in uniforms. When drugs were found on the port at Port Police Station, but he wasn't here. But he knows that there was a Carl Hudson report that said that certain high-ranking police officers should never wear a uniform again. Never. The Carl Hudson Phillips report. That's what he said. But but you come and you masquerade that Impacts was the first inquiry ever into the police force. You masquerade. And I know there's somebody listening who knows that history. Mr. Speaker, that is the kind of misinformation and lies that he repeats with an accent that people believe. So, Mr. Speaker, we have no one in this party has ever openly criticized or insulted any member of the police force. We've been very careful, Mr. Speaker. Even when we believe we were treated incorrectly or wrongly, we have not done that. But Mr. Speaker, that is the respect we have for the police force. But the leader of the opposition instead of sitting here, and if you're genuine, working with us, and say, listen to me, that is wrong, that is right, as we've done before in some legislation that came to this house when you're in opposition. But no, he leaves and he goes out, and his surrogates tomorrow on radio and television will make statements like, it is better to lose $7 million than 7 lives. You want to believe that? You want to believe that? You want to believe that? How can you compare recklessness with the people's money? Share recklessness with the people's money. And Mr. Speaker, I have news for you. Very soon, we are going to make these reports documents to the House. Because you see, what they have done is we've tried to run the country and run it in a way that will cause us to not to create too much distraction for the country and a even cost. But we have to continue, we have to stop that, Mr. Speaker. So very soon, there'll be many documents that will be documented in the House. But Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition says that the police, why are we giving so much power to the police? The police, again, not misinformation. The Police Act, Mr. Speaker, that governs the police in St. Lucia, the Police Act, Mr. Speaker. Here is how it describes a police officer. A police officer means any member of the force. So when he comes and says, oh, why are you giving so much power to the police? That is, the police officer means any member of the force. But this legislation goes further, and it says, even if a police officer means any member of the force, there are certain things that only somebody in the rank of inspector can do, out of the abundance of caution, Mr. Speaker. But again, playing to the gallery, misinformation, peddling ignorance, peddling lies, peddling things that he thinks will sound nice, Mr. Speaker. He says that that law can happen anywhere. Section 6, Mr. Speaker, order for designation of an escalated crime area. Section 6E, the applicable period for which a police officer may exercise the police powers specified in the order. So it's only for a period of time. It's not even sunset legislation. It is there that you can use it for a period of time. And sometimes we say 4 weeks, 6 weeks. The member Senator Cassie says that he thinks it should be longer, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker, is to show that the government has confidence that the police force can bring this situation under control. But they need resources, they need manpower, and they need the necessary legislation. The resources, I said, we're going to continue to give it. The manpower, we've asked the RSS to help us. And the French, Mr. Speaker, have been on the ground in St. Lucia. They've come into our rescue, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank them for coming in and help us in our time of need. The French are here, and they will return, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this legislation is not legislation that we take lightly. It's legislation that we seriously wanted to do something that will send a message, Mr. Speaker. And this message is a message that says to the criminals, and you know, and sometimes we make excuses for criminals, Mr. Speaker, and gangsters and selfish people. Criminals and gangsters, all kind of excuses for them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, who knows more about social programs than the Labour Party? Who knows more about education, the education revolution, than the Labour Party? Who had universal secondary school education? Who had universal primary school education? Who had the one laptop per student program? Who knows more about education as a leveler? Who knows more about creating social equity in this country than the Labour Party? But you cannot mistake these things with criminality. You cannot mistake it for gangsterism, Mr. Speaker. And this legislation, for a period of time, when necessary, will stop that criminality and that gangsterism in the country by enforcing a law and by giving the police the tools and resources to do it, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to end by thanking the members of the police force, by thanking the French, by thanking the governments of the region that have helped us with the RSS. I want to thank the members of the cabinet, Mr. Speaker, for having the courage. Because you know, Mr. Speaker, particularly in constituencies, in some constituencies, although it's happening all over the place now, there are people who will not be happy. They're not going to be happy, but you must have the courage of your conviction to stand up and do what is right for the majority of the people in the country. And we believe that this is the right thing to do, and we hope that the police may never have to use it, but they have the resources, they have the legislation, Mr. Speaker. And I call on the people of St. Lucia to call out the leader of the opposition, to call out United PAC for their lies and their misinformation and their gloating on crime. There are some people who appear to be happy that there are these murders. They appear to be happy. They appear to be glad. They're gloating. All kind of innuendos, Mr. Speaker, just because they believe that they will gain some political mileage from that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and I thank members as we look to finalize this bill for the benefit of the people of St. Lucia. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.